Alright everyone, we're back with another super regen base build. If you don't know, with the 4-piece Iron Banner armor set, it makes it so when you have final blows while your super is active, it will refund super energy when it ends. This will be able to pair and stack with other exotics that also grant super energy back, so it can make for a lot of fun builds. I just posted a Storm Trance one up on the channel yesterday if you want to check that one out, but this one is going to be all about Skull of Diarm Kara and making that OG Obsidian Mind build that we had back in the day in the original Destiny. If you didn't play the original Destiny, Obsidian Mind was an exotic that will refund Nova Bomb energy with Nova Bomb kills, and a lot of people pair that with bad juju, and with how fast you could get supers in Destiny 1, it made it so you could chain supers over and over again, and it was one of the most fun builds in the game. Now as we come to D2, we have Skull of Diarm Kara, which also does the exact same thing. Your Nova Bomb final blows will actually grant you super energy, and on top of that, if you do have Devour, your weapon final blows will also grant you some extra super energy as well. If that wasn't enough with Skull and Mind with the Triumph, it also made it so you can basically throw 2 Nova Bombs, and if you collide them together, it can cause some major explosions. All of these Nova Bombs will play back into granting you extra super energy, and then when you pair that with the 4-piece and the Iron Banner armor set, you're looking to consistently get around 50 to 60% of your super energy back at all times if you are getting enough kills. But in some situations, if you do line it up properly, you can get up to around 80% of your super energy back with just 1 Nova Bomb. Now that does have to be an insanely ad dense room with some orange bars and such, but it can happen, and with the amount of ad density in the game now in most activities, it actually happens quite often. You can get a huge portion of your super energy just by throwing your Nova Bomb, so you no longer need to just save it for any boss scenario. Just throw it and you can pretty much have it as a secondary grenade cooldown with this specific build. Now like we mentioned, a great exotic to pair with this is going to be Bad Juju, not only just to throw back to the Destiny 1 days, but in this game it also grants you a bunch of super energy as well based on the String of Curses perk, and the more String of Curses you have, the more super energy you can get. So basically just throw your Nova Bomb, get a huge chunk of your energy back, then use Bad Juju to top it off, and it works extremely well just like it did back in the day. Now with that being said, if bad juju isn't your thing, you can absolutely run whatever weapon you want to with this. I just wanted to get as much super energy as possible, and of course sprinkle in a little bit of nostalgia. Now for your subclass, you can either run Voidwalker or Prismatic with this setup. I chose to play into Voidwalker because it does have the fragment Echo of Reprisals, so final blows while you're surrounded will grant you super energy. This is just great to have because you can get some extra super energy, which obviously plays back into this build very well. On top of that, you are going to want to run Feed the Void, so you can actually get Devour on any ability kill. This will let your Nova Bomb, your grenades, and everything of the sort grant you Devour, which of course will play back into our Skull of Diarm Kara. Plus this is also just great for survivability and spamming your grenades, and since we can spam grenades, we're going to be taking Chaos Accelerant, so we can basically buff our grenade up to make it have some additional effects. And I like running Axiom Bolt with this because you basically can get double Seekers. These could do a ton of damage with this build as well, but it's completely up to you on whatever grenade you want to run. I know a lot of people like Vortex, and if you really want to play back into the D1 days, throw in the Scatter Grenade and you can cause a bunch of mayhem. For the Nova Bomb, you are going to want to run Cataclysm, so you can actually play into the Skull of Diarm Kara exotic. And then for the Rift, I like Healing the Rift for survivability, which you could also play into Empowering, and then I take Pocket Singularity. Now for the rest of the fragments, I like running Echo of Explosion, so Voidability final blows can actually cause targets to explode. It kind of reminds you of the Bloom perk from Destiny 1, which also made all your Void ability kills cause explosions, plus also just getting a little extra ad clear is always nice. Now next up, I like to run Echo of Undermining, so this basically makes your Void grenades weaken targets. This is going to be great played into our artifact, but also your Axiom Bolts to just be able to weaken bosses now, which obviously will make everything do more damage, including your Nova Bomb. And then I like Echo of Harvest, so whenever you defeat a weakened target, it can create an overpower and a Void Breach. This will play back into the fragment we just mentioned, because now your Axiom Bolts can essentially make orbs and Void Breaches with this fragment, which is very, very good. If you want to swap this one out for other stuff, you totally can, but I found it just plays best with this specific setup. Now for the artifact, it's honestly kind of up to you on what you want to run. If you do run the Tablet of Ruin, you do have something like Limit Break, so you can make your Nova Bombs do more damage, which is very, very good. If you run something like the Queen's Foil Sensor, you do have Wished into Being, so it makes it so when your super is nearly charged, ability final blows will grant orbs. This can play back into your Nova Bomb, just granting you orbs, which is nice. But I've been enjoying the Hunter's Journal, and that is because it does come with perks like Void Hegemony. So while you have a Void or Prismatic subclass equipped, whenever you defeat a weakened target, you can get a Void Overshield. This will play back into your fragment where your Void grenades can weaken targets, so not every single time your Void grenade gets a kill, not only are you getting Devour to heal to full, you're also going to be able to grant a Void Overshield, which helps out a lot with survivability. You can also take Elemental Siphon, so rapid weapon final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your super will actually make a elemental pickup. Since we are running Bad Juju, that is a kinetic weapon that will actually make you a Void Breach, which is super, super nice. And then you have things like Expanding Abyss, so your Void sources will deal more damage to weakened targets. So since your grenades will be able to weaken things all the time, now your Nova Bomb, even your grenades themselves, can just do more damage to those weakened targets, which is great. The other stuff in the artifact doesn't matter too much. Those are going to be the three main benefits. But for the other stuff, I like running Shield Crush because you're playing into avoid overshield anyway. Press the Advantage because this is just nice because when you break shields, you just get a bunch of stats for your weapons, which is nice. Counter energy, so if you stun a champion, you can just get some energy back, and then also energy diffusion substrate, so you could just get some extra damage resist just in general. Again, artifact with this build doesn't matter too much. It just kind of depends on what you like to do and how you want to play with it. But I think the Hunter's Journal does give you the most bang for your buck because it lets you play into your whole subclass and not just solely focus on the Nova Bomb alone. Now for stats with this build, you definitely want to try to get as much super as possible since you're going to be throwing your Nova Bomb all the time. I would definitely recommend trying to get to 200, but I would also recommend getting to at least 100 grenade so you could take as much advantage of getting the energy back with Devour. You want to spam your grenade all the time to apply the weakens, to grant your overshields and everything of the sort. And again, also your grenades will just do a lot of damage and get kills as well. For the rest of the stats, you can either play into something like weapons or class because weapons obviously will let bad juju do a little bit more damage. You get a little bit more mileage out of it. But if you're playing into class, you can use your rift a lot more often. It's kind of just completely up to you. Your melee and health stats, not really the most important things to this build, but 100% try to get to at least 200 super and 100 grenade. Now for the armor mods for the helmet, I like running a kinetic siphon alongside two double ashes to assets. Kinetic siphon will just let my bad juju make orbs, which is great, and then double ash assets will just give you more super energy on grenade kills. Since we'll be able to spam grenades a lot, this equals even more super energy. Pairing that with bad juju, you can spam your super all the time. Now for the arms, I like running a momentum transfer and a bolstering detonation, so this makes it so whenever my grenades deal damage, I will actually get some melee and class ability energy back. Again, since you can throw your grenades all the time, this is just a nice little benefit to have. I also play to a grenade kickstart, so whenever I have armor charge stacks, I can throw a grenade, I will actually get some energy back based on the amount of armor charge I have. And to get armor charge, we'll be making orbs of power with the bad juju. Just pick them up, and now you'll just get more grenade energy back when you throw your grenade. For the chest piece, always go with triple resistant mods, so you can swap these out for whatever content that you're going into. And then for the boots, I like running triple kinetic weapon surge since I will be getting a lot of kills with bad juju. This just helps out with that really well, just granting you that extra damage, especially when you do pair this with the two piece of the Iron Banner set, which also is just going to give you a little extra damage as well. And then for the class item, I like running a proximity ward so I can get an overshoot when I go for a finisher. This is just a nice little survivability tool if you are in the thick of it. And then I like taking a powerful attraction so I can pick all the orbs up around me when I do use my class ability, and then a time dilation so I can make my decay and armor charge just last longer. So that just means I have more time for kinetic weapon surges, which again is super good for bad juju. And if you run something like the refurbished sniper rifle, that also is very, very nice. But then for the final part of the build, this is the Transmog I'm running. I will throw it up on the screen here. I went for a very D1 classic look. I wanted to try to make the helmet look as much like Obsidian Mind as I possibly could. I think I achieved that very well. The Prodigal Hood basically just looks like Obsidian Mind. Honestly, even with super black, it's not as black as it was back in the day, but I still think it actually looks really, really cool. And then for the rest of the armor, I just took advantage of stuff like the Vaulted Glass armor, the King's Fall armor, some of the Ultras armor, and even some of the Opulent armor, which is based off some of the D1 armor as well. Overall, it definitely gives it a very D1 look. And while I don't typically use super black because it's kind of basic in my opinion, I think this does play well into what Obsidian Mind was back in the day with how it looked. And overall, I think it fits the theme of the build very, very well. But that is going to do it all for this build. If you want to relive your D1 experience just with a lot more stuff going on, definitely give this build a shot. If you have any questions about it, be sure to drop them down below. And if you made it this far in the video and enjoy, consider doing all the normal YouTube stuff. It is truly appreciated. If you'd like a place to hang out with our community, be sure to join our Discord server. The invite link is in the top of the description. Anyways, that is going to do it all for me. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Peace.